Chronicles of a Gooner. Like and subscribe. Chronicles of a Gooner. Harry Symeou time. Arsenal. Come on, you gunners. Arsenal. Chronicles of a Gooner.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to another episode of the Chronicles of a Gooner podcast with me, your host, Harry Symeou, on what is the first proper Monday of January. Most people have gone back to work today. Most people are getting back into their usual routines today, myself included. And we are here to try and make that transition a little bit easier by providing you with another episode of the pod. And we've got plenty to discuss. I have to say, when I went to bed last night, I was thinking about what I was going to talk about on today's pod. And I started to think, when you consider that we've just done a pod talking about Chelsea's result at the Etihad, the implications that that has on Arsenal, I started to think there's probably not that much to talk about in the morning. So maybe we'll leave it and we'll record something later in the day. And hopefully by then there'll be some news, some interview, some discussion, some conversation that crops up, meaning we can make a show. But I saw a particular story last night before I went to bed that we're going to focus on today. And also we woke up this morning to the news that Manchester United have sacked Ruben Amorim. Now, that is interesting. The way that has developed, the way that has all evolved over the last few days has been really, really interesting. We're going to cover that as well. Saves me doing a separate Harry Reacts post. So we're going to talk about Arsenal's plans, apparently, to try and sign a striker. And we'll get into who that is and the details of it in a bit. We're also going to talk about the Viktor Gyokeres backing from Declan Rice. We'll get into that as well. And of course, we'll cover off Amorim's sacking. Plus, we'll take some of your thoughts and comments from the live chat box. Now, you might be wondering why I'm not in the normal studio setting. I am in a little bit of a rush today because I have been asked to go in and cover a radio show. It's not my show, but I've been asked to go and cover it because someone's absent, which is absolutely fine. I'm grateful for the opportunity, but it just means I haven't got as much time. And given that my office is an icebox at the moment, because I had no real notice to go and put the heating on down there, I just thought, I cannot do it. I cannot do it. I'm going to sit there literally shivering on the show. So yeah, it's really, really cold in London. And I know there'll be people in the chat in other parts of the world that are far colder that will say -3 degrees, that's nothing. But to walk in, the thought of walking in there completely cold with no prior time to get the heating on, it just scared the living daylights out of me, if I'm being honest. You guys that have watched and listened to this for a while know that cold is my kryptonite, and it's not something that I enjoy in any way, shape or form. Look, a few good mornings to those of you that are in the live chat with us. There are lots of you with us. Thank you so much for being here. I really, really do appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, but you're a regular around here, you know what you're going to get. So make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel as well. If you are new, if you're listening to us on Apple or Spotify, please do leave us a review. And we have a January sale on our Patreon proposition as well. Now, last night, we recorded a Patreon pod in which we discussed Chelsea's draw at the Etihad. We also covered off just how good Declan Rice is. I decided, in honour of Chelsea getting that result, to make that Patreon pod available to everybody. So if you want to get a feel for and a taste for what we do over on Patreon, go and check out the last episode. It is on, of course, the channel. It is on the feed. Go and have a look. Go and check it out. And yeah, if you want to sign up, there is a discount available to you, 25% off January sale. That's off your first month's membership. So go over and have a look at that. Some of your comments make me laugh. D. Evergoru says, can't afford to put the heating on. I promise you that's not the problem. The problem is I don't have the time to wait for the room to heat up, and it will be freezing having been switched off down there all night, because it's a separate building to my house. So it's not connected to the central heating. It's got its own electric heating. And if it's not on for a while, oh my word, it does get cold. Auntie Clockwise says, Harry Cypriot, he's not used to this frost. He's built for barbecues on the beach. Absolutely. That is 100% accurate. And Ben just highlights that somebody tried to impersonate me on X the other day. And I did put a post out on X about this just to warn people. But just a quick reminder, if you've seen an account going around, I can't even remember what the name was, with my picture, trying to sell Arsenal tickets to people. It isn't me. It's never been me. Whenever people ask me for tickets, I'm always so reluctant to promise anything because it's just such a difficult thing to do nowadays, and you obviously need to transfer them to existing memberships and all the rest of it. So it's not that I don't want to help people, but it's really, really difficult to do that right now. So I promise you, if you've seen an account on social media claiming to have Arsenal tickets for sale using my picture, it isn't me. It is not me. Okay, shall we get into today's stories then? And let's start backwards. Let's go with the Ruben Amorim thing because that is massive, massive news. Ruben Amorim sacked this morning, and you kind of watched his interview yesterday, his post-match press conference after the Leeds game, and you got the sense and you got the feeling that this relationship between Ruben Amorim and the Manchester United hierarchy was A, strained, and B, coming towards its end. Okay, this is a manager who's coming at Manchester United with big hope, with big expectation. And it's fair to say that Ruben Amorim, I don't think, has lived up to that. Okay, I think there's a few things you can say about him. I think he's been at times probably too honest, which has brought on additional criticism and additional scrutiny. Not that you need that when you're Manchester United boss. All of that stuff already exists. But I just think it's been maybe, I don't know, sort of amplified by some of the things that Ruben Amorim's been saying along the way. I think he's not really been helped by the club. I think that's fair to say. I think some of the recruitment this summer was probably a little bit better, but it still wasn't enough to get Manchester United from A to B. They're in a much better league position now than they could have even dreamed of finishing in last season. So when you think about that, you start to look at it and you go, well, why sort of sack him now when things have been much worse in the past and you decided to persist with him? And there has been some improvement, albeit not enough for a club of Manchester United size. But I think Amorim's problems have been too honest at times, not tactically flexible enough. That for me is the big one. He came in, he was insistent on playing in a particular way. He was insistent in playing a particular system. It wasn't working. I'd argue it's still not really working now, 14 months down the line. And yet he persists with it. He's desperate to go down that route. He's really sort of adamant that he's not going to change his philosophy too much. In recent weeks, we've seen some changes, some adjustments, but it feels like it's too little too late. I suppose what yesterday's press conference told us and showed us was that there is a real breakdown in the relationship between Ruben Amorim and some of the people upstairs. And he made a really interesting comment where he said, I came to be the Manchester United manager, not the coach. I think you'll find that his official role at Manchester United was head coach based on some of the communications that we saw when he was appointed and since he's been sacked as well. So I don't know if there was a crossing of wires there. I don't know if Ruben Amorim is making the point that he was brought in with the hope of having a little bit more power and a little bit more of a say in what's going on in other departments of the club that obviously directly influence and impact his. So scouting, really important. If you're a manager with a very set philosophy, you need to have a really good input, don't you, into the scouting and player recruitment. And is Ruben Amorim suggesting that he didn't have the power or the voice that he needed in some of those scenarios? There's been a lot of change upstairs at Manchester United since Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos came in. And listen, I told people when those guys came in, and I remember when we used to do the show with the 90 Min guys, man, I miss it. We used to have all sorts of debates. And I used to say, look, I get that you are all desperate to cling on to Ineos as a potential savior and ride on their coattails and hope that they're going to put you on their magic broomstick and fly you out of the shit that Manchester United are in and put you in a much better and much more positive position. But I always said that while the Glazers are there, okay, there is a limitation to what Ineos and Sir Jim Ratcliffe can do. Even with sporting control, okay, there are still limitations to what they can do. But then there's the other point, which is that actually Ineos aren't that good at running football clubs anyway. And Sir Jim Ratcliffe's record isn't great anyway. So why was there so much confidence and belief in him as an individual and the people around him turning the juggernaut of a ship that Manchester United is back around and putting it on the right path? Like it's you hear just a few short months ago that Ruben Amorim is being backed, being supported, that they really like him, that they're gonna back him, they're gonna support him, they're gonna give him what he needs. And when you listen to Ruben Amorim, who can be accused of a lot of things, but not really of being dishonest, I don't think, it's clear that in recent months there have been disagreements behind the scenes that have culminated in Manchester United finding themselves in this position and Ruben Amorim gone. What he said yesterday was, I came in to be the manager. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but I came in to be the manager, not the coach. I'll do my job, they'll do theirs, and in 18 months, which is when his contract was due to end, we'll be done. We'll move on, or something like that. Whatever it was, word for word, that he said. But when I heard that, I thought, oh. So I wasn't surprised to wake up this morning and read the news that Ruben Amorim has left Manchester United. Who they get next, that's the big debate. There'll be a lot of managers out there that will naturally be interested in a job of that size and of that prestige. But at the same time, it's a bit like the Chelsea situation, where probably the best managers in world football are looking at it and going, great club, I'd love to manage there someday. And it's probably a club that I maybe dreamed of managing when I was growing up. But looking at the way it's run right now and the way it's operating right now, are the conditions right for me? Are the conditions right? And, it feels like when you look at United, you look at Chelsea, there'll be a lot of top managers put off by the way things are at those football clubs. There's a lot of you in the chat saying Maresca could go there. He could. But do you know who I'd be going for if I was Manchester United? I would be moving heaven and earth now to try and get Oliver Glasner out of Crystal Palace. That's the one I'd be after. There's rumblings from Glasner for a while that, he doesn't really feel like Crystal Palace is serious in terms of their ambition. They sell players. They don't really bring players in of the same level. Obviously, they won the FA Cup. They got into Europe. They were hoping to build on that. Could have been in the Europa League, but for an admin error, etc., etc. I think Glasner's a good shout. Iraola's been mentioned in there. I like him as well. I feel like with Iraola, it might be easier to get him just because, and I'll explain why. Iraola feels to me like someone who would be so grateful to take the Manchester United job that he would accept, a bit like Enzo Maresca did when he went in at Chelsea, probably a bit like Ruben Amorim's had to when he's gone in at United. He will accept not having full control, and he'll accept having to leave certain decisions to others because it means that he gets a job that, he could have only dreamed of maybe a few short years ago. Oliver Glasner's won a Europa League. What I know of Oliver Glasner is that he's much more abrasive, that he talks out a lot more, that he's much more straight to the point. And I do wonder if Man United, a bit like Chelsea are doing now with the imminent appointment of Leroy Rossini, or Liam Rossini, I beg your pardon, are looking at it and going, I like Glasner as a coach, but he's going to come in and he's going to ruffle feathers. And he's not going to do what we ask him to do. And he's going to challenge us. And he's going to push back on us. And he's going to have completely different ideas to us. And that's going to create a friction that's ultimately going to lead to a situation just like the one that Manchester United are having to deal with the fallout of now, where Ruben Amorim and, from what we keep reading, Jason Wilcox have completely fallen out. So it's a really, really interesting thing and a really, really interesting dynamic at both those football clubs, Manchester United and Chelsea, both of whom have parted with their head coaches or managers, depending on who you talk to, over the course of the last few days. So, yeah, I just think this is a fascinating story. And I think things are going to come out. There's going to be quite the fallout, I think, to this news. I don't think Ruben Amorim can stand there and say, I unequivocally deserve to continue in this role, because the results, they've improved this season, but have they improved enough? Have the performances improved enough? Are we still talking about the same issues at Manchester United that we were talking about a year ago when he just taken over? That's the thing that I think Man United will sort of look at. But, in terms of where that club is going, I've said it many, many times, until they get the Glazers out, until someone with real ambition comes in and takes charge right at the top. And I'm not even convinced that Ineos are in it for all the reasons that they say they are. I don't doubt that, there is a willingness to progress, because progression naturally brings greater income, greater reputational stability, and all the rest of it. But there is also a part of me that looks at it and thinks that, someone like Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos are only coming into this if they think business-wise it will make sense for them as well. It's not like the Roman Abramovich ownership of Chelsea, where it was a plaything and it was all about winning and having a bit of fun. It's not like the Saudis at Newcastle, who I do believe came in with the intention of accelerating the project and have had some issues doing that as a result of the PSR restrictions. But it's not about wealth for them, is it? And I'm not saying Ineos are scraping the barrel penny-wise, but I do think that they're a bit more of a business than a sort of an ownership, part of an ownership that really want to win. And I'm not saying that they're not a massive company and all the rest of it, but their reputation in football is based on their history, and their history suggests that it's business first. And I think Manchester United fans might start to wake up to that, because Ruben Amorim, right, got some players in the summer, yes, and Man United have progressed as a result. Like, they were down in the doldrums last season. What were they, 15th in the league? This year, they're in 6th right now. It's not a disaster by any stretch of the imagination. If I have a look at the Premier League table now, I remember looking at them the other day and thinking they were only a handful of points off of Chelsea, who just a few short weeks ago were being talked about as potential title challengers. Yeah, look, Man United level on points with Chelsea in 6th place, 31. They're only 3 points off of the Champions League places. Now, if you look at how they performed last season, to be just 3 points off the Champions League places, just over halfway through this season, it's a major improvement. It's a significant improvement. But it's obvious and it's clear that, there's been a breakdown behind the scenes, which I think has triggered this sacking more so than it being about the results in recent weeks and recent months. That's just my view, just my opinion. Right, look, we're going to take a really short pause, and when we come back, we're going to talk Arsenal. Don't worry. I know I've rumbled on about Man United for a while, but it is a big story. It is worth covering. It is worth discussing. And when we come at these stories, we come at them from a position of great stability. Our club has shown incredible stability in recent years. We are seeing the rewards of that stability in that we are consistently challenging right at the top of the league. We're consistently challenging in Europe. And hopefully this is going to be the year that we get over the line. If you want more reaction to that result between Manchester City and Chelsea yesterday, remember, go back and check out the last episode. It's a Patreon piece unlocked for you all. We reacted to that there. Short pause, and we'll be back with some Arsenal chat. Don't go anywhere.
You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner. Like and subscribe.
That's right. Like and subscribe. Make sure you leave us a review, depending on what platform it is that you're joining us from. And if you want to check us out on Patreon, you can do so. Patreon.com/The Chronicles of a Gooner. If you want a taste of what we do over on Patreon, check out the last episode available to everyone. We opened it up yesterday, as I said, in honor of Chelsea snatching a late draw at Manchester City. Okay, let's talk Arsenal, and let's discuss Declan Rice's comments with regards to Viktor Gyokeres. Now, I've talked a lot about Gyökeres. I'm not that impressed by him. I'm not super impressed to the point where I'm sitting here hand on heart saying this was absolutely the right sign-in. And we've hit the jackpot there. Equally, I'm not sitting there saying he's complete and utter rubbish, get him out, and he's of no use to us whatsoever. I think that Viktor Gyokeres is someone that has his uses and someone that we are benefiting from having in the team. I suppose the question is, are we benefiting enough? And the reason we bring this up again today is not to have a pop at Viktor Gyokeres, but it is to just highlight that the feeling behind the scenes is probably quite different. Now, I was speaking to someone who works very, very closely with the club, a former player who obviously has his connections and talks to people, who says that actually, there is a lot of love for Viktor Gyokeres within the Arsenal camp right now. And even though the goals aren't coming at the rate that maybe people expected when he first arrived, there is a lot of respect for the job that he does every single time he takes to the pitch. And I'll still have my opinion, and I'll still say my bit on whether I think at times his touch is good enough, whether I think his movement is sophisticated enough. All of that stuff that we've been going over and over the last few weeks, I still stand by that. But I think sometimes it's quite telling, isn't it, when you hear that the players, the ones that work with him day in, day out, that see exactly what he's doing behind the scenes, are on board and are backing him. It's hard to know how much of that is a willingness for him to do well, which then means that they're kind of really positive, and the camaraderie within the group means that you're going to be encouraging, you're going to speak highly of him, versus how much of it is based on what they're actually seeing. Like, I'd imagine if you sat every Arsenal player down and in a completely safe environment had this conversation, and the question was, can you get more out of Viktor Gyokeres? Can Viktor Gyokeres do more? I think most of them, hand on heart, would say yes. And I'm just guessing, obviously, I can't know this for sure. I'm just projecting. But I'd project that most of them would sit down and say, yeah, look, he's working really, really hard for the team and all that. But he could do more, and we could do with more from him. But I think because there is a really good spirit within the group, because there's a real understanding of how good this collective is, of how close they are to achieving something amazing, I think there's probably a reluctance to go down the negative path. And I'm not saying that you'd ever do this publicly anyway. Like someone like Declan Rice, you ask Declan about the kit man, he's going to be full of praise. You ask him about the physios, he's going to be full of praise. Declan Rice is that kind of guy. So I do think that while I acknowledge this backing and I sort of do pay attention to it because these guys work with him every single day, I do think what's projected outwards might not necessarily always be the same as what you're feeling deep down. And I think there's a lot of Arsenal players that have shown us in the way that they play around Viktor Gyokeres that trust level is just not quite there at the moment. Doesn't mean it won't get there. Doesn't mean it can't get there. But I think there is a feeling probably that he could do a little bit more. That doesn't mean, though, that doesn't mean they don't acknowledge the good things he's doing, which is working really hard, running channels, using his body, etc., etc. So what did Declan Rice have to say on Viktor Gyokeres then? Let me share my screen with you guys so you can see the quote in full. There we go. Oh, click the wrong button. No, that's the wrong one too. That's the wrong one. That's the wrong one. Hold on a second. As you can see, I'm absolutely useless at this. There we go. Okay, so it's tough for him. This is what Rice said on Gyökeres, because he's got two defenders on him all game, all over him. So he has to use his strength. He has to do all he can to help the team. And with that goal, without him making that run from Gabby's flick and holding it, setting it off to Martin, that goal wouldn't happen. That was a pivotal moment in the game for us to turn the game on its head. I see how hard he hits a ball. And when that space arrives for him and the ball's arriving at his feet to score goals, he will 100% score. But at the minute, defenders in the Premier League want to be able to stop Viktor Gyokeres because he's one of the best strikers in the world. Trust me, he's doing unbelievably for us. We wouldn't be where we are without him. So, take that as you want. I think it's nice that Declan Rice has come out and has backed his player. I think it's good. I think it shows, as I keep saying, that camaraderie within the group, and it shows that everybody's together and they're not going to allow people to be singled out as points of failure in this Arsenal team. Instead, they're going to protect each other. They're going to look after each other. And I love that. I love the spirit it shows. But at the same time, there are certain elements of that I think are there to dress up the fact that at times he's not scoring enough goals and he's not having that impact that we all want him to. So he talks about pivotal moment in the game for us, turning the game on its head. Absolutely. And Viktor Gyokeres does play a part in that goal. There's no doubt about that. We talked about it on the pod that we did on Sunday morning, right? It's 100% true that Viktor Gyokeres' role in that was big. But was it like he deliberately sort of set it to Martin Odegaard? I don't know, that's not how I recall it. I recall it as him making a nuisance of himself, which then led to what happened. But it's not quite the same as being really precise and showing real quality in the final third, which I still think is the thing that Viktor Gyokeres is lacking. But look, it's great that Declan Rice has come out and backed him and supported him. And I do think he was better against Bournemouth. I said he was better against Villa as well. So, you know, I'm willing to run with it and stick with it because it's getting better and better progressively. But as I keep saying, I really do believe that when Kai Havertz is back fit and available, he will be the number 9 in this Arsenal team, unless Viktor Gyokeres can really pick it up between now and then. Right, look, we're going to take another really, really brief pause. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about, I beg your pardon, sneeze. That time of year, did I get to the mute button in time? I hope so. Otherwise, those of you listening with headphones, sorry. We're going to take a really short pause. And when we come back, we're going to talk about Arsenal seemingly planning a striker signing. This is interesting stuff.
You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner. Like and subscribe.
That's right. Like and subscribe. You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner with me, Harry Symeou. In fact, let's check out where we're at on likes right now because they really, really do help, guys. Don't forget to smash that like button. We are at 74 likes, considering there are hundreds of you watching. It's not really good enough. Come on. Smash that like button. It really, really does help. Okay. Arsenal are said to be looking at a striker. Yes. Despite having Gabriel Jesus, Kai Havertz and Viktor Gyokeres within their ranks, the Gunners are eyeing up a young striker, someone that is probably a signing designed for the future more than anything else. But I think it's interesting because this is a player that we've been linked with in the past. It's a player that Arsenal clearly like and admire and would like to see put on an Arsenal shirt with a view to him, I think, in the future, either becoming a key part of the squad or potentially being someone that we stand to make some profit from. Hand of Arsenal reported yesterday that Arsenal are once again looking to sign the highly talented Igor Tijon from Blackburn Rovers. The Gunners made 2 bids last summer, with Arsenal seeing their second bid rejected at around about 2.2 million. Now, I'm willing to bet that most of you haven't heard of Igor Tijon. I'm willing to bet that there's a lot of Blackburn fans that don't know much about him. Why? Because I know one, and asking him yesterday, he didn't know too much about the player. Arsenal are leading the race as of today to sign the highly rated striker who has been scouted for a long period of time. Igor is currently on a scholarship contract and is keen on moving on. Sources close to the player suggest he has already politely declined multiple new contract offers, despite Blackburn Rovers' best attempts to keep hold of their prized star striker. His representatives informed his parent club of the player's desire to seek a new challenge in a meeting as recently as 3 days ago. This is all according to Hand of Arsenal. A fee close to £1 million is suggested as a suitable offer to sign the highly talented striker, and Arsenal are keen to add him to their youth ranks to compete with Andre Harry-Mananu. So that gives you a bit of insight as to where he would fit in to the Arsenal machine. If we had a £2.2 million bid rejected, is £1 million going to get it done? Like, is it? Surely it's not. I'm just trying to have a look at him on Transfermarkt so we can get a little bit more information. Hold on a second. Let me just do the screen share again onto the Transfermarkt page so that you guys can see it. So here we go. Igor Tijon, Southport born, 17-year-old centre forward. Hasn't played in the Championship this season. Hasn't played in the EFL Cup. Wait, but I don't know if this is updating because look, everything's the same. Hold on a second. Let's click into detailed performance data. I do find this to be a little bit odd sometimes on Transfermarkt. Sometimes the page refreshes when you jump tabs and sometimes it doesn't. I found that a lot this year. I don't know if it's a little bug on their website. But look, so far this season, 8 appearances, none in the Championship, 1 in the Premier League Cup, 1 in the FA Youth Cup, 3 in the Premier League 2, 2 in the National League Cup, and 1 in the EFL Cup. I suppose Premier League 2 is what we probably should be looking at because that would make him someone that we could have in at, under 21 level. That's where Andre Harriman-Anus is playing right now. 3 goals and 1 assist in 3 games. That's pretty good going, I would argue, for a young lad. But look, these guys will have data. They'll have, lots of information on the player. And I'm sure they would have watched the player to be at this point where they are thinking about spending millions of pounds, multiple millions of pounds, because if the £2.2 million bid last time out was rejected, you can bet you're not going to get him for significantly less than that, unless there is contractual reasons that Blackburn feel they're better off taking the money and running. I don't know, but look, he seems like a talented player. When you read some of the kind of scouting reports online about him, which I did late last night, you get the feeling that he is someone to be excited about, that he's got the potential. And I find it really interesting, right? Because Arsenal's academy, I think, is one of the best, right? You look at the players that have come through. We've had Saka come through. We had Nketiah come through, who ultimately we went on to sell for 30 million quid. We've got Lewis Skelly, Nwaneri, all of these guys. Maitland-Niles was another one that came through not too many years ago. We seem to produce a good level of talent. Marley Salmon looks exciting at the moment, young defender. Haven't even mentioned Max Dowman, who's another one. So Arsenal clearly produce players, right? But I think what Arsenal are trying to do, and I think we've reported on this in the past, is try and identify players not at 8, 9 years of age. You obviously want to do that as well when you can. But I think they're looking at some of the clubs that we can potentially pick from, okay? The likes of Blackburn Rovers, with all due respect to them, we can pluck players away from them. You bring them to Arsenal at a point where they just need the finishing touches on their development. And that means that you either then are in a position as a football club where you go, right, you can go into my first team once I think you're ready, because you're a supreme talent and we've been so impressed with you. Or you might not quite be Arsenal level, but a middle of the road Premier League club or a Championship club who also have decent resources might be interested in you. And then we've picked you up for, let's say in Tijon's case, £1 million. We might sell you for 5, 7, 8 million pounds in 2-3 years' time. And all of that contributes to your ability as a football club to then spend yourselves, doesn't it? So I think that the academy is a really, really important thing, particularly with all these homegrown rules, particularly with the PSR restrictions. Every time we sign an academy player, okay, you've got to be open-minded about what their future looks like. In some cases, they'll end up going on and representing your club and maybe even going on to become Arsenal heroes. In other cases, they might simply be coming to your club so that you can turn a profit on them. But you've got to be open-minded about what each of these players are capable of. And there has been, as we understand it, a big focus and shift in terms of the way we recruit at that level. And I think that is really, really important, because I constantly look at Chelsea and think you guys use your academy to its absolute maximum. And that allows you, even when you make tons and tons of signings, to stay within the rules, just about, in Chelsea's case. But you know what I'm saying? So I think it's really, really important that we do better in that department. And if we think that Igor Tijon is someone that, we can benefit from bringing into the football club in whatever way, then do it. Who am I to say no? I don't know enough about the player to have a really strong opinion. You just have to, at some point and at some stage, trust that Arsenal know what they're doing. And you look at the volume of players that we've brought through our academy and that have made it all the way into the first team versus some of the other big clubs. And you have to say that the people running things seem to know what they're doing. Yes, you have to have the talent as well. Okay, you could be the best coach and academy director in the world. If you don't have the talent there, then those players are not going to make that progression. You could, in theory, be doing everything right, but for those players to take that step, they have to have it within them. But I think, our record of producing players, of developing players in recent seasons should be enough for us as supporters to sit back and trust, and not go, what are we doing? Why are we going to sign a player from that level or whatever? No, just sit back, relax, and let's see what happens. So Arsenal, it seems, are planning a striker signing. It's not the high-profile striker signing that I'd imagine some of you were hoping to hear about when you tuned into today's episode. But the Gunners are, as we understand it, assessing the window. I've said to you guys before, I don't think it's going to be a mad, crazy busy window for Arsenal. I just don't. But I think they'll have their ears to the ground and they'll be looking for opportunities. Let's see how it goes. Right, I'm going to love you all and leave you all. I've got to get down to central London. You can join me on TalkSport 2. Today, I'm on all the way from 3 through until 6 this evening. So there's a lot to talk about. Busy weekend of Premier League action, plus the Ruben Amorim sacking. We're going to talk about Nuno Espirito Santo as well, who we understand is on thin ice at West Ham United. There's loads to unpack. I'm going to be flying solo from 3 until 4, and then from 4 until 6, I'll be joined by Rory Jennings. So come over and have a listen. Thank you so much. I'll catch you all very soon. Leave your likes, subscribe on the way out, leave your hype points if you're watching this back. Check us out on Patreon if you're listening on Apple or Spotify. Leave us a review, and I'll see you all soon. Until the next one, up the Arsenal. Goodbye.
Chronicles of a Gooner. Like and subscribe. Chronicles of a Gooner. Harry Symeou time. Arsenal. Come on, you Gunners. Arsenal. Chronicles of a Gooner.